What's up, NBA fans? Dom2K on the mic, and before this video starts, I have to say thank you for 100,000 subscribers. I don't even want to take the time out of this video trying to put into words what this means for all of us, for the people who've been supporting the channel for so long, people who were supporting back when I was on my older channel. So what I am going to tell you in this video is that I'm doing a formal 100,000 video for my next video instead of this one, and it's going to be something along the lines of a Q&A that's going to be a part of it. So what I want you to do is, if you want to be featured in that Q&A video, you can leave your questions in the comment section. Maybe if it gets thumbed up, I'll look at it. The best way to actually reach me is through the social media links you see on your screen. I answer all of these pretty religiously, so you can follow me on Twitter and DM me there. My Snapchat, I always answer private Snapchats, the Facebook, and the new Instagram. I appreciate if you actually follow the new Instagram, because that's a new one that I just made, so you can DM me there. Those are the best ways to get your questions featured, so definitely send those. And it does not have to be about basketball, because people always think it has to be something with basketball. It really doesn't. Just ask something you're curious about for a chance to be featured. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start the video. So right now, as NBA fans, we're actually pretty blessed because we have the most confusing MVP race that I can honestly remember. We have 4 MVP candidates all doing great things that if you were to give them your first place vote, if you actually had one, you really would not be wrong. If you're living under a brick or something like that, the 4 candidates are obviously Lebron James, Kawhi Leonard, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden. And I'm honestly not mad at you if you call any one of these guys the MVP. And at this point, I've made about 3 MVP videos on this channel, so you kind of know where I stand with this. And the MVP award is definitely kind of a double-edged sword, because on one hand, I think Westbrook illustrates this the best. On one hand, you can have an amazing individual season, you can average a triple-double, but on the other, the MVP voters are going to vote for the player that's winning the most, or at least has their team in a top 4 seed. And to many people, including myself to some degree, that kind of seems backwards, because the MVP is an individual award. So if someone just doesn't have the team to win, like take for example Kobe Bryant when Shaquille O'Neal left. Kobe Bryant obviously had amazing stats, but he definitely did not have the team to go any farther than really what he did. And that's where I call it a double-edged sword, because you can put up the numbers, you can be extremely valuable to your team, but no matter what, you know, at a certain point reality kicks in. If your teammates are Kwame Brown and Smush Parker and Chris Mim, you're not getting a top 4 seed, especially not in the Western Conference. And as unfair as this sounds, what's the most valuable thing you can do to the league? Because I think that's what people get mixed up. The MVP award does not mean MVP of your team, it means MVP of the league. And what's the most valuable thing you can do at every level in this league? It's winning. And that's for the playoffs, that's for the regular season. Wins are the most valuable thing you can do. So regardless of the MVP being an individual award, if you can't win, you really can't get your hands on that award. And I believe that's what Russell Westbrook is suffering from right now, because if you look at the standings, right now they are 3 games behind LA for the 5th seed, and that's not even talking about cracking a 4th seed. So without cracking a 4th seed, I don't see where he's going to be able to win the MVP award this year, and that's extremely unfair, because as my dad points out, Westbrook lays it all on the line 110% every night. I've never seen Westbrook take a playoff with my own eyes. Now, something I actually didn't mention in my Westbrook video I made a couple of days ago is that sometimes he plays this hard to a fault, because sometimes he's doing too much and he's taking 30 plus shots and the next best player on his team hasn't even taken 10. And you know, the question becomes, because these aren't bad players playing on OKC. I've jokingly called them a YMCA roster before, and that's a huge over exaggeration, okay? This isn't the 07 Cavs he's playing with, but I do believe maybe if he scaled back just a little bit and maybe did give Oladipo some more looks, maybe the team would be a bit more successful, and maybe that's where MVP voters are going to rationalize picking somebody over him, because that is a fault. He's not perfect. However, this isn't just Westbrook's video, and I do want to kind of move on to one of my least favorite arguments in this confusing MVP race, and it's the hypothetical absence argument, okay? And this is what people kind of use to prove a player's worth to the team. And they say, if such and such wasn't on the team, then the team would be way worse, therefore they should be MVP. And I hate that argument. Now, on one hand, I do understand it, because if you do take a player off the team and they get significantly worse, doesn't that prove their value to the team? And you know, we're talking about the MVP award. Yes, I get that, but as I've mentioned before, A, it's not the most valuable player on your team, it's the most valuable to the league, and B, the real reason I hate this argument is because you could apply it to almost any star in the league. How many stars could you take from a team and have them just be absolutely sorry? So if you took Isaiah Thomas or John Wall off of their teams, they would be bottom feeders. The same thing with the Cavaliers. You take LeBron James off of they're bottom feeders. Now, they'd be bottom feeders disputers for different reasons, because you take LeBron out the Cavaliers, it's not like there's still not talent on that roster. They should be way better than they are without LeBron James. But you get my point here, because you can use that argument for so many, you can use the argument for so many stars that to me it's kind of a gray area. For instance, right now, you've taken Kevin Durant off the Golden State Warriors. They're not nearly the team they were. They're putting up season lows in the amount of points that they score in a game. They haven't won as many games. They just don't look anything like Golden State when they had Kevin Durant, because they gave up so much to get him. But does that make Kevin Durant the MVP just because the Warriors, or they were far and wide the best team with him, and now it's looking like maybe they don't even get out of the West without him? So what does that mean? I won't drag my point out because I think I've made it already. With the 4 players in the MVP race, you pull any of them from their team and they're all significantly worse. Kawhi Leonard from the Spurs, they're not going to the NBA. They don't have a chance at the NBA Finals without Kawhi. The Russell Westbrook on the Oklahoma City Thunder, that becomes a lottery team. Hell, even Harden on the Rockets, yeah, they'll probably still be able to shoot, but that is not a 3rd seed without James Harden, not even close. And yeah, you get the point by now. So now let's look at what's really making this confusing and some of the players I haven't really talked about on this channel. And one I really feel is overdue is Kawhi Leonard, because I haven't talked about him at all, and that's my fault. Again, I think most people make the mistake of not talking about Kawhi throughout the season because he is so low-key and so humble that sometimes he just flies under the radar with the rest of San Antonio. However, Kawhi Leonard has become a superstar in every sense of the word. He's their offensive player, averaging 26 points a game and 6 rebounds, and on top of that, this man plays lockdown defense, best perimeter defender in the league. This is what really throws a wrench into this MVP race, because right now San Antonio is half a game behind Golden State for the best record in the league. So should they overtake Golden State by the end of this season, does Kawhi Leonard get MVP? Because historically, a player averaging as much as Kawhi, doing everything that Kawhi does on both sides of the ball, and having the best record in the league, that's the undisputed formula for MVP. And then you get to LeBron James, and people, yes, like every season, are advocating for LeBron James to win the MVP award. Now, I'm not saying they're dead wrong, because in my last video, you saw the stat chart I pulled up where LeBron, this is his best season since he left Miami. So he is doing amazing things. But in my opinion, yes, LeBron James always has a case for MVP. He's putting up the numbers, but LeBron James can't be MVP this season for the simple fact that just look at the standings right now. Houston has a better record than Cleveland. Houston is also a team made of one superstar MVP candidate and a lot of role players that people did not think were going to make it this far. For that simple fact to when you go for Cleveland and they have 3 all-star players, which okay, one of them has been out, so it's Kyrie and LeBron, then they have a ton of supporting pieces. For them not to even be doing as well as Houston, I don't think there's a way in the world that you could give the MVP vote to LeBron over Harden. But then again, there's the argument that LeBron James just does so much for the team, and that's supported by the fact that every time he sits out, they never really get close to winning. And so that just shows how much he does for them and how they really can't function without him. So maybe he is the MVP of his team, but again, MVP of the league, I think there's more deserving players, but nevertheless, he is in the race. And the last player I haven't talked so much about in this video is James Harden, and that's my pick for the MVP award. And I think that it's between him. 1 and 2 to me is him and Kawhi Leonard. And again, Kawhi Leonard is really in the race because historically, again, he has the perfect formula for the MVP. However, I think it kind of goes back to like 2014 where Kevin Durant, and he was on the Oklahoma City Thunder, and they lost Russell Westbrook for not the entire season, but for much of the season. And when he went down and we knew he was going to be away for months, we kind of thought, okay, OKC's not really going to be that good. And then Kevin Durant stepped up, and everything he was doing was just so eye-popping. He led the OKC Thunder to a 2nd seed, I believe, in the West that year. And he just did so much with the team that we didn't think he could do it with that he ended up the MVP over LeBron James. And I kind of put that same thing here with James Harden and Kawhi Leonard. Although the Rockets won't end up ahead of the San Antonio Spurs in the seeding, it's way too late for that. I think we can all say that the Rockets and James Harden completely busted our expectations for them. When that roster completely changed over the summer, Dwight Howard left, some more pieces left, and we knew that they weren't playing great basketball to begin with because a lot of it was just people watching James Harden play, and it just kind of looked ugly last year. He averaged great numbers, but it wasn't great team ball. I think a lot of us looked at this and said they're barely going to be an 8th seed, yet they're a 3rd seed, and they are actually the sleeper team to really come out and surprise people in the playoffs now, which nobody expected when the season started. You put that on top of the fact that Harden is averaging 29, 11, and 8, and I think you've got your MVP candidate. I think it's really only right this season. I heard Pau Gasol's comments after the Rockets game advocating for Kawhi Leonard, saying he does more than just go score 30, but you can't really apply that to any of the MVP candidates, and especially not James Harden, because he does a lot more than score 30. He does do all the other things with rebounding and assists, and he gets his teams wins, and more wins than anybody projected for this roster that they have. And again, the last thing here is, do not sleep on the Houston Rockets, okay? I know nobody was really giving them a chance for the championship. I still think, as we speak right now, to actually win it all, I don't think people give them a high chance. But let me remind you of this. Right now, they are the healthiest team, and it takes a little bit of luck and health to win an NBA championship. Right now, the Golden State Warriors are missing Kevin Durant. Yeah, we expect him back, but again, we don't know how that's going to go. Extremely unfortunate news for LaMarcus Aldridge with the San Antonio Spurs. He's went out with heart problems, and that might keep him that might keep him out for the season, because they don't like to play with heart problems. Life is a lot more important than basketball, and I don't think without him they'll be making a run for the championship. The Cleveland Cavaliers have had injury problems this entire season. They're just now getting J.R. Smith back. They're going to have to get Kevin Love back and acclimate him into the offense very, very quickly. And I'm just looking at it, you know, when you take those three teams off, to me, next up is the Houston Rockets as far as championship contention. And sometimes all it takes is a little bit of health and luck. So do not be surprised if Harden wins MVP and then they end up in the finals, because, well, right now they're the only team that doesn't have those problems that every other team has. They're doing better defensively than a lot of us thought they could do. I'm just saying, they're not my pick for the championship, but do not sleep on them. And the fact that a team that most of us had barely making the Western Conference playoffs we're even talking about them for a sleeper team as an NBA champion, I think you got to give Harden that MVP. But as I said at the beginning of this video, you would not be wrong voting for any of these four. They all have extremely strong arguments for it. For Westbrook averaging the triple-double and carrying a team that really doesn't fit him to the playoffs and possibly a 5th seed, that's pretty amazing. Kawhi Leonard right now averaging the MVP numbers, possibly going to have the top record in the NBA. LeBron James and the fact the Cavaliers can't do anything without him, and he's having his best year since he came back to Cleveland. And then James Harden, who is also averaging the MVP numbers, and he has the Rockets in a position that none of us predicted back when the season started. So they all have extremely strong cases, and that's making this season extremely confusing as far as the MVP race. And now, of course, I want to know what you guys think. Out of these four candidates, who and why are you voting for a certain player for the MVP award? Definitely want to hear this one, because it's no longer a clear two-man race, and it's no longer a clear-cut race either, because this could go either way. And I know all of you have a different opinion on the four, so leave that in the comment section. Definitely submit your Q&A questions, like I said, for you could do it here, or you could do it on my social media links. Make sure you do that. Make sure you hit the like button, keep subscribing, and definitely hit the bell next to my name so you can be a part of the notification squad that gets there before I even get to pin my comment on the video. So thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys on the Q&A.